Welcome to Pick Up and Deliver, the podcast where I pick up my audio recorder when I step off the train and deliver an episode to you while I walk home. I'm Brendan Riley. Well, good afternoon, listeners. It is a chilly Tuesday afternoon on my way home from teaching, and I'm going to get ready, have a little quick dinner, and then head out to Dirty Nelly's in Palatine for the Toggle Gaming Night. It's a playtesting night, so my design partner Rob and I will be playtesting our games tonight. I don't think I'm probably going to play any published games. I'm not planning to bring any, lest I'm tempted to put them on the table. I'm trying to get in a habit of when I do playtesting, that's what I'm doing. And when I'm playing published games, that's what I'm doing. So that's my plan for the evening. It's playtesting games. But before that, I get to do a podcast for you, which I will edit and release tomorrow. It is cloudy and chilly. We're coming off of something that the meteorologists around here called the late January thaw, where we have a brief warm spot before it gets cold again. And it's appreciably colder today than it was yesterday, to the point that I'm wishing I wore a warmer jacket. Oh well. So on today's episode of Pick Up and Deliver, I'm returning to the well for another episode of, I don't know what you'd call it, silly shenanigans that I call the Geek Asks. So thus, without further ado, the Geek Asks 3. The Geek Asks is a recurring segment on Pick Up and Deliver, in which I pretend that the main general forum of the BoardgameGeek forums are actually a Q&A section for me. I open up my app as I'm walking and I look at the latest questions that are posed, and without reading the actual post, just by reading the subject line, I answer that question as though it were a question in a Q&A session. I will skip ones that don't seem to offer interesting questions and just do my best to provide a little bit of amusing commentary as we walk. I haven't gotten much feedback on these episodes, so regular listeners or new listeners, if this is something you find enjoyable or reprehensible, let me know. I will presume silence is acquiescence. So, how do you prefer to learn game rules when someone else is teaching? Carefully? I don't really know what that question is asking. I guess I like it when someone teaches thoroughly. I like when they start with the theme and then they explain how you win and then how you do the things that let you win. That's my main goal. Sometimes the explanation requires that we learn a few things about the way the game is set up or about the process before we can learn the how to win bit, but I want to make sure that they always put how to win nice and early. I've actually gotten in the habit of reading the section of the rule book in which we detail endgame scoring, because I've had a number of teaches where I forget to mention one thing, and of course that's the thing that ends up mattering, so I just read that part. All right, moving on. Can we stop calling them gateway or filler games and just love them for what they are? Sure. I presume this is a complaint about the idea that somehow calling a game a gateway or a filler is an insult to it, as opposed to a shorthand for describing the level of depth, complexity, and the amount of time expected for the game. I've never taken gateway or filler to be insulting, but rather descriptive, in the same way that I've never really thought of point salad as insulting, but rather descriptive, even though it was intended as an insult. I would suggest gateway and filler probably have that same issue, although gateway is, I think, as often as not used in a positive light along the lines of, I really want to get my friend to play more games. What are some gateway games I can offer that will suck them in? Best way to randomly select starting player. My preferred way is the web app or the phone app Chawazi, in which you all put your finger on the phone and it picks someone. I like that one. How important is the look and theme of a game to you? Very important. It will often outweigh mediocre gameplay if the theme is fun. So let's see. Are you worried about games being shipped from China with the coronavirus outbreak? Nope. The influenza kills a lot more people than the coronavirus has. So I'd be far more worried about getting the flu and spreading the flu than about the coronavirus. Worst Kickstarter ever? Probably. Let's see. Do some game reviewers quit their day job? A very few amount do. I think most game reviewers spend a decade building up a reputation that allows them to maybe quit their day job. Some have made a go of it faster than that if they're bringing particular skills to it. I think you could look at Rahdo or Man vs. Meeple or the Dice Tower as examples of people who are professional game reviewers. That said, Man vs. Meeple is the only one I know that did it quickly. I don't know how long Tom worked as a minister and had that as his day job. I know he was a teacher for a while too before he had Dice Tower as his day job. Rahdo was effectively retired and picked up board game reviewing as a hobby, and it morphed into a job, but he did it for a long time for free. I think most people who do reviewing start as a fun thing and eventually it becomes a day job. But the industry isn't really set up in a way that hires professional reviewers. I just don't think the industry's big enough. Oh, I guess, Shut Up and Sit Down would be another example, or No Pun Included. But again, both of those, they spent a long time establishing their track record as good reviewers before they were able to make a living doing it. I think that's probably what you have to do, start doing reviews. Let's see. What defines a party game? Do you hate them? No, I don't hate them. I enjoy party games. What defines a party game? I suspect the definitive exploration of this topic would be to go listen to some of the old episodes of the Party Game podcast. Has a very long title. I think what makes a party game is a game that plays a large number of people, often very easy to explain, relatively short playtime, or is played in rounds in a way that people can kind of swing in and out. Needs to be fun. And I say that with the acknowledgement that there are some games that are intellectually fun, but perhaps mentally challenging. I wouldn't say that's generally going to be a good party game. Some people will call Codenames a party game. I'm not sure it is. Generally, a party game can't be that quiet. All right? What board game has provided you the most victories in your lifetime? The most victories? It's got to be Netrunner. I mean, I played Android Netrunner 380 some times. Even if I only win a quarter of those, that's still going to be more victories than any other game I've played. I guess if I was logging plays back when I was young, and somehow I was able to log games of 500, I played an awful lot of 500 in college, which, if you haven't played it, is a card. It's a standard deck card trick-taking game. Kind of like euchre, halfway between euchre and bridge, I guess. What board game currently resides at your number one on your wish to play list? When I started reading that, I was just going to say, my number one game. You can go listen to my top 50 that I did a couple episodes ago. But it says my number one wish to play list. I guess I'm going to say it's got to be one of the games on the top of my stack, right? Which one of those am I most excited to play? I think King's Dilemma. The King's Dilemma is the game I'm most excited to play, even though it'll be a while till I get to. But I'm really keen to try that. I think it looks really fun. How many is too many? Can you even have too many? Yes, you can. I'm assuming they're asking how many games is too many. Well, I'm at 364, and I think that's too many. We'll say 350. Why Euro games are inherently unfair. There's not a question there. I guess I don't know what you mean by inherently unfair, but I presume if you take into account the skill of the person. I remember having this discussion in a design conversation with a pal of mine when we were talking about games that have trackable information that isn't open. like a game where the amount of money you have isn't technically public knowledge, but it's trackable. And we were talking about, what does it mean to say that it's not public, but have it still be trackable? Does that mean that you may have a player who decides they want to keep notes, and they take notes of how much money everybody has? Wouldn't that be annoying? But do you then put in the rules, no keeping notes? And I guess one of the questions I asked is like, is memory really meant to be one of the things you're testing in the skill of the game? And he's like, I don't know why memory is somehow less important or less worthy of test in a game situation than is, say, quick thinking or strategic planning or abstract statistics. Right? There's lots of things that games test. One of them could be memory. So in that regard, I think Euro games are inherently unfair because some people are smarter than others. But from that regard, Candyland is the only fair game because it is entirely random. And that Candyland's not very fun. What game would be nicer to play if it had minis? I guess Gloomhaven would be pretty cool if it had minis. It would be a pain in the ass to store. I wouldn't want to store Gloomhaven with minis for all those creatures, but it would be nicer to play with. Which game has the worst looking miniatures? I guess Zombies with 3 exclamation point. Those miniatures are pretty mediocre. Axis and Allies, those are pretty junky. I mean, these are mass market games with cheap miniatures, so it's kind of a sliding scale type question. What's the difference between a strategy game and a tactical game? Well, it probably depends on who's putting those labels on the game, because most people don't really know the difference between the two. Assuming we're operating with standard definitions, tactics usually refers to moment-by-moment choices based on the situation you're facing. Strategy usually refers to large-scale planning decisions based on overall goals and sort of higher-up situations. So generally, a strategy, in my current online game of Agricola, for instance, my strategy might be, I'm trying to do a lot of farming, so I want to get lots of pens, get lots of animals together, that sort of thing. My tactics might be, on any given turn, I'm going to take X or Y element and try to maximize that particular creature or that particular goal. So that's the difference. Tactics is a turn-by-turn choice or a small-level choice. Strategy is a large choice. From that regard, I would say Wingspan is a very tactical game, because your choice of what you're going to do on any given turn depends a lot on what food's available, on what birds are available, and so on. You may have an overall broad strategy that you take, but it has to change moment to moment. So that's the difference. Why some of these people should really subscribe to this podcast. Poll, rank your favorite themes. No. Let's see. Ooh, lots of boring questions here. Apologies. Games starting with X? Question mark. The only game I can think of that starts with X is XCOM. I suspect there's a pirate-themed game called X Marks the Spot, but I just made that up. Are gaming tables worth it? Do you have enough money to be able to afford one? I think if you do, they're probably worth it. We haven't got one yet, but I sure do enjoy having a game mat, which I got for Christmas. That said, if I suddenly had a bunch of money for a game table, I probably wouldn't spend it on a game table. How likely are you to buy a game that one of your frequent gaming buddies owns? It really depends on whether or not it's a game I would play outside of my contact with that buddy. There are a number of games that regular listener Chris Hickman has, for instance, that I probably wouldn't buy because odds are 9 times out of 10 that I would get to play that game, it would be with him. Versus there are some games that I definitely would consider buying because I know my wife likes them. And if I have it at the house, that means we get to play it. Sagrada, for example, is a game I didn't think we would like. A friend brought it over, we played it, my wife liked it. We borrowed it, we played it 10 more times. Then I bought it for us, and it has gotten tons of play since. So, I mean, for me, a big part of it is just recognizing which games will get played at my house. Let's see. All right, last question. Alone on a desert island, your game of choice? Question mark. If I was alone on a desert island, I would want a game that's got a lot of replayability and is a lot of fun by myself. Arkham Horror, the card game. Boom. So I'm curious, how would you answer any of these questions? Pop over to BoardgameGeek Guild 3269 and let me know. I look forward to hearing from you. That's just about it for me today. You can reach out to me, Brendan at Rattlebox Games, or find me on BoardgameGeek Wombat 929 there. I hope that your next walk is as pleasant as mine was. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.
Brought to you by Rattlebox Games.